Welcome to the Optics Room podcast. This is your host and optometrist, Hasnain Mamdani. Join me weekly where I host expert guests to give us a wider field of view into the world of optics. Okay, hello viewers. Today we have Sheena Tanna-Shah, a coach who inspires optometrists to be successful. So we're in for a treat on Halloween as well. This is when we're recording it. Sheena, great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So as I was just telling you a few minutes ago before we started recording, that I really found it very interesting and intriguing, what you do and how you do it. And when I came across your website, Inspiring Success, you do so much on there that can help any optometrist. So instead of me not doing it any justice, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So I've been an optometrist for about 18 years now. And about 15 years, prior to 15 years, I was struggling with my own mental health quite a lot, struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression. And back then, the awareness of well-being was quite low. There wasn't that much information on how to get help, where to look for help, what to do. And it was just a bit of a battle. And it really impacted me on a personal level, but it was impacting me on a professional level as well when I was going into work. And so, over time, I found help, found support, found various ways to support my own mental health and my own mental well-being journey, and it really transformed me, as I said, not just personally, my personal life, family life, and that's what it really made a difference to my journey in optometry as well. And so I actually began training in all the therapies that helped me, and I set up my well-being business, Inspiring Success, as a life coach, as an NLP practitioner, and then over time I've just continued to train with meditation, mindfulness, rapid transformation therapy. So I work with individuals outside of optometry, and then I wanted to really bring it into optometry as well, because I feel like with optometrists it can be a bit of an isolating profession, and we can all have issues and things that are going on, and it can impact our professional life, it can impact our relationship with our team, it can impact our relationship with our patients. And I thought, I really want to actually not, of course, support other people as well that aren't in optics, but I thought I really feel there's a need and a niche that actually I can bring this into optometry, because we don't always talk to and connect with other people, but I feel like when we connect as optometrists together, maybe when we've gone to a CPD event together, everyone just lets things out, and it's just
Yeah.
therapeutic, and we think, oh, we're the only ones thinking these things or feeling these things, and it just feels like a big therapeutic session when we're talking about issues at work or our teammates or our managers or whatever it may be. And I thought, well, it's not great that we're only doing this during maybe once a year, if that even.
Yeah.
So I thought, what can I do to actually combine what I'm doing as well-being and my business in well-being and as an optometrist, and put that together. And so, yeah, I started writing articles for optician and OT. I started working with various companies. I started doing coaching and started that with Specsavers as well. Started that with pre-regs in Tesco's. So I started doing it individually. And then just very much this year, started creating CPD events so that I can actually target a lot more professionals and really support their well-being.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how you touched upon the fact that when we meet at CPD events, everything just comes out.
Yeah.
Because when you're at work, either you're testing all day, or on your breaks, you can't really converse that openly. So it's very different, and it's like a AA meeting for optometrists, I guess.
It literally is. And it's exactly the same when you're working, even if you're with other optometrists, you just don't get that often or that long to, connect with that other person, even if just to ask, how's your weekend? And then you get interrupted because something's happening. And so, it can be a pretty busy day. So yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Great. So let's get into it. What are the most common problems that you come across with an optometrist?
I think a lot of the issues are, one, the isolation and not having other people to connect with. Sometimes that's a real issue. One of the biggest issues is relationships with teammates and managers. It's one of the key issues that people find. There is a natural clash at times with managers and optometrists. With optometrists want certain things, perceive things in a different way. Managers obviously have different pressures upon themselves as well, and that communication or lack of can cause a bit of a rift there. So they're the two things, and then three, learning. So there's things that are always changing in optometry, and people that have been doing this for many years, when that change comes, it can feel daunting and it can feel scary, whether that's a new contact lens product, whether that's new varifocals, or whether that's new, like things like OCT coming out. people can feel a bit overwhelmed, they can feel a bit, a bit lost, and they don't know how to support themselves and how to, improve themselves as well, because they feel, oh, I must be the only one that doesn't know how to do this. I must be the only one,
Yeah,
can't figure this out. And actually, we all are in the same boat. We all have different learning abilities, but because we believe that we're the only ones, we start procrastinating. We put things off. We try and avoid those patients that we're struggling with, hoping that somebody else might see them, or that will take them in. But yeah, so I feel like, yeah, communication, the isolation, and the learning are the three key things that I found
yeah.
optometry struggle with.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I found that when I go to, for example, maybe a CPD event, if there's certain topics that I feel other people know about, but maybe I don't know about, I feel that, hang on, Hasnain, why don't you know about it? You should know about it. And then I keep quiet.
Yeah,
But I think everyone would have the same questions as we would. So I think if one person was to open up, then everyone would say, hang on, I've got that question as well.
exactly.
Um, so, how do you help optometrists improve their mindset whilst they're at work? So, let me give you a scenario. I'm at work, I'm through my fifth patient of the day. It's just too tiring and I'm not in the mood for it today. How can I get through the day?
So simple things. One, I always feel like know why you're doing this in the first place. Always remember your purpose and your passion as to where you started this role from, why you got into it in the first place. Because whatever role you're in, whether you're an optometrist or whether you're a CEO somewhere or a teacher, you're going to have days like this. Yeah, you're going to have days that are tiring, that are a bit of a struggle. So always go back to, why did you start this? What was your purpose? Just take that step back. You don't have to keep on going, patient after patient. Just take a couple of seconds, because it can be a really busy day and you feel like, okay, that patient's waiting and I'm still with the patient now, and it can feel really overwhelming. Actually taking those 30 seconds or even just a minute out in that day just to reset, just do some breath work, maybe just say a couple of affirmations, and just reminding yourself, the purpose of why you're helping other people can actually make such a huge difference. So just taking that little bit of time out can actually really, really help you as well. But I always feel like, you need to start your day good. I always feel like you have to start your day good for your day to work better for you, or for you to be able to respond to your day better. Because if you are not looking after your own well-being, if you're tired and you're stressed anyway, if you're irritated because something's going on in your personal life, and you wake up in the morning and you wake up with overwhelm, you wake up with stress, you put the snooze button on a few times, and then you're rushing out to work, you get to work, you're already a bit, frustrated or irritated, or that overwhelm is already there, then that day is going to continue like that. Whereas if you start off maybe waking up 10, 15 minutes earlier, just taking a few breaths, just having that good start to the day, maybe even having a cup of tea in peace instead of rushing around, maybe just nourishing yourself with a breakfast, whatever small thing you can do for yourself in the morning, just to start off peacefully and calmly, then your day will go like that. So even if you have a very stressful day, or it was a very chaotic day, or something's not going right, you're able to respond to it rather than react to it. And that's the key difference in people's days, responding and reacting.
And I think your morning sets the tone for the rest of your day as well. Do you
Absolutely.
think that there's enough of a support system for optometrists?
I think it's getting better now. I think it's getting better. I don't think it's enough, no. But from what it was when I started out, like I say, 18 years ago, when there was nothing, to what there is now, I think especially with, AOP and the AOP support line, and things like just awareness around well-being, people are talking about it a lot more, especially since the pandemic hit and we experienced so much challenges and changes and insecurities. I feel a lot more people are talking about it now. But having done some of these CPDs, and I think I must have done, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe about 12 sessions. Um,
Wow.
and, these are groups of like 70, 80 optometrists. After each session, people were like, gosh, this is so needed. We don't have this enough in our profession. We do maybe CBDs and things like this on clinical aspects, dry eye, OCT, whatever it might be, which is all absolutely relevant, but we don't have a topic on well-being like this. And it felt so refreshing. I had to pay, optometrists that were 85 years old. I had optometrists that were super young, newly qualified, and every single age range, felt like actually taking that time out to just reflect, reset, and refocus. They weren't given that, and so having that opportunity during the CPD event, it felt it was really needed. So I do think it's not enough just yet. I want to
I
change
think,
it.
yeah, I see you being the key person to do that in the industry because clearly you're very passionate about it. But obviously, when you mentioned that you were going through your struggles many years ago, this support system was never in place. There was no one doing what you're doing. How did you get through that time?
Oh, it was honestly, it was so incredibly tough, and I was really struggling with my anxiety. So when I would go into work, I wouldn't have a good relationship with my colleagues because I would maybe be, withdrawn or quiet, and people would mistake that as being moody, so they wouldn't really talk to me, and my interactions in the day would just be very limited. So I was, pretty much surviving the day, not even thriving in the day at all. And my husband's an optometrist as well, so my biggest support was him initially. And then together we were just sourcing people to help me, so therapists and other coaches. And it was a lot of trial and error. But back then, as I said, the awareness of well-being just wasn't there. The words anxiety, it was very limited. I didn't even know I had anxiety at the time. So to really get from where I was to where I want to be, it was a definite journey for me. So finding coaches for myself, finding that therapist, I really had to continue doing that inner work for myself. And it's only when over time I started seeing changes. I thought, gosh, if someone like me can change, and I'm talking about someone who couldn't even get on a bus, who couldn't fill their own
Mm,
petrol up, who couldn't take their kids out for walks. I had such social anxiety to be doing things I'm doing now. If I thought if someone kind of like me could change, there
yeah.
must be, so many other people out there feeling the same way as me. I really wanted to support them. So yeah,
And it's amazing that you can actually share your story with us as well. Many people have probably gone through the same thing you have, but they've kept it all inside,
yeah,
and they've just had to go plodding along the years, day in, day out. But thankfully, now that you're there, there is a route to some sort of support system.
yeah.
Um, what kind of relationship should optometrists have with each other within the industry to improve their performances?
Oh, good question. So I think, one of the things that's come about recently is the whole new PDP cycle, the personal development cycle. And you have to, talk to other people towards the end of your cycle, talk about your development. And I think, initially that sounds really daunting. Oh, I've got to talk about, my journey and my learnings with other optometrists. But actually, I think that's so good because in optometry now, there are so many varied roles now, whereas before, it might have been a bit more limited. But having a relationship with diverse optometrists is just so vital. So somebody might be interested in a certain field, somebody might like myself might be interested and have a very different career with optometry. There's such a wide range. So just connecting with different optometrists, you can learn so much. And again, it goes back to that fear when you said, that actually when you went to a CPD and you felt that you didn't know something. So then people even going to CPD events feel a bit overwhelmed. They feel like I don't want to go and mingle with somebody. I don't want to go and do a CPD in person because I might not look so smart. I might not look as clever as the next person. And so it really limits them. But I feel like actually connecting with other optometrists, one, you feel like you're not alone. Two, you
Yeah,
just learn so much. And three, you have so much to give as well. So don't underestimate, how much you actually know yourself and how much credit you can also give to yourself. So share what you've gone through and share your journey, share anything that you've learned because like I said, you have, learned so much, you've done so much, whatever that may be. So feel good in yourself. So yeah, absolutely, go out there and connect with other optometrists. I think it's so, so important.
it's important. There's some optometrists, for example, like myself. I'm the only optom in my practice. So it's me, myself, and I. So we don't really get that exposure to other people.
Yeah,
Whereas if you're working in a practice with six, seven optoms, you do get that interaction,
yeah,
um, which is still not enough, but it's better than nothing, isn't it?
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
what can an optom do to improve their relationships with patients as well?
Yeah. So I think this is such a super important question and so vital because your patients are fundamentally everything you're there for. You're there to serve and support your patient at the end of the day. And the key thing I think we need to remember is communication. Communication is the most a simple thing I can tell you, but the most impactful thing that you can learn. And by communicating, it's really important to even look at one of the models. So there's a person called Albert Morabian, and he uses a communication model, which is the 7-38-55 model. And it says that when you're communicating with somebody, 7% of it is done through words and the rest of it is done non-verbally. So 7% is through words, 38% is through your tone, and 55% is body language. So the words you're saying is only shows 7%. The rest of it's body tone, body language and tone basically. So can you imagine how much impact you can have if that patient's coming into your room just by observing their body language, just by observing their tone, just by giving them that time, listening to them, just not just the words, but how they are appearing can make such a huge difference. sometimes we might see that patient think, oh, they don't look very engaging, or they're not very interactive, or they look a bit grumpy maybe. I'm just going to have to get through that patient, do the best I can. But actually, let's take a step back and think, actually, they may have had a bad morning. They may have had bad news in the week. Something may be going on for them to feel like that. Maybe they're really anxious about this eye test. I had a patient today and she was literally trembling, and she was like, I'm really nervous. And she actually said it to me, I'm really nervous. Anything medical, I just get really, really nervous. And it's so important that we have such a routine, history and symptoms, a refraction, examination, and we go through this
Yeah.
protocol. But actually, even though the elements might be similar, no patient is similar. Each patient is
No,
individual and unique. So, maybe let's stop typing for a second. Let's maybe turn our chairs and face that patient. Maybe just for 60 seconds to say, how's your day been? How's your weekend been? How's things going? If you remember them from last time, how's your family? How was that holiday you went to? If you're local, maybe you don't have that, remembrance from that patient, but simple things, how's your day, or how's your job going? It can make such a huge difference. That patient will think, oh, that person cares for me. Yeah, I'm not just a number. I'm not just, somebody that's just come for an eye test. He's actually giving me, a personal experience. And so listening, communicating, asking them, making sure they're feeling at ease, just looking at, how they are they confident? Are they worried about something? Just taking that extra step and just reading between the lines can make such a huge
makes
difference.
a big difference. I think we get so caught up in the day that it's just patient one, patient two, patient three, lunch, patient seven, eight, go home. I
And
think
this
the key
this
thing,
was literally me. 15 years ago, I was getting bored in optometry because that's how I used to see it. Patient one,
yeah,
the one before lunch, the one before home. That's how I was seeing them. And I got bored in optometry really, really quickly. And I work with my husband, you see. He's very
okay,
outgoing, he's very bubbly. And every patient he would take in straight away, hey, how's your day going? Didn't matter what time it was, didn't matter what number patient it was, he always did this. And I used to watch him. I think, how do you do that? Every single time. He's like, you don't know the difference you're making in that patient's day. That's what he told me.
yeah,
And that really stuck with me because, it's just one of my favorite quotes. You don't know the difference you're making that person's day, and you've got the opportunity with that many number of people every single day. And it just made me think about the experiences I have with other people. So if I go to a restaurant, if I'm buying a phone, when someone's giving me a really good experience, I remember it. But when someone's giving me a really bad experience and not made me feel good, I'll go home and remember that person. So I
yeah.
really want to be that person when that patient goes home. They think, oh, that was a really nice experience. They made me feel good.
Exactly, and because of COVID as well, so many people have become so isolated. I've met people, patients who have had their family passed away, their parents are no longer here. They've had the worst 2 years that they could have ever imagined,
Yeah,
and people are still isolated, even though most of us think that COVID is long and gone. People still feel that way, and a lot of mental health conditions just came to the surface during that time because people were stuck inside as well. So all
exactly.
these things are still ongoing. It's not as if it's just stopped because it's not transmitting anymore. It's the same for optometrists as well. Optometrists must have gone through a hard time as well. And I think in order to look after patients, we have to look after ourselves first.
Million percent.
We have to sleep well, start the day right, go for a walk, get your breakfast in. Are there any other practical tips that you can give us to help us keep us going through the day?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking after your well-being is has to be central to absolutely everything. Don't put that to the side. It's not selfish. It's not self-indulgent. If you don't look after yourself, how can you look after all your patients? You may have heard, the aeroplane, saying when, you have to put your own mask on before you help other people. It's the same thing. You have to look after your well-being. And I always categorize well-being in four ways: your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, social well-being, and your workplace well-being. Always look at those four aspects. Emotions, how are you feeling? Are you feeling good towards things? Are you feeling positive? Or is your confidence lacking? Is self-esteem lacking? Is your self-worth lacking? Then your physical, are you doing any exercise? Are you nourishing your body? Are you hydrating? And your sleep, so that's your physical. Your social, as humans, we like to connect with people. How is your social life? Are you connecting with your friends, your family, work teams, any clubs or hobbies that you may have? And then your workplace well-being. When you're going to work, are you feeling good and motivated? Are you getting supported in your career and your growth and your goals? Or are you going to work and dreading it and just trying to get through the day and get home again? How are you feeling? So really assess your four areas of your well-being. Really look into each and every single one of those. How are you feeling? Give it a score. How can you increase it? And work on your well-being, all those four aspects every single day. Small steps, one step,
Definitely.
whether it's one glass of water extra than the day before, whether it's 10 minutes of extra sleep than the day before, just one thing every day. Try and improve on yourself, and then you can be the best person of, for yourself before being there for the people.
Yeah, just like habit stacking, isn't it?
Exactly.
Do you think that the large companies in optics give enough importance to mental health for their employees?
I think they're beginning to. I mean, I can't speak
Okay.
for many of the multiples. Speaking personally, with Vision Express, where I currently work at the minute, I do think they are starting to look into well-being. Even for myself, allowing me to do sessions on mindfulness and meditation for their teams and colleagues. They are looking to do that. They're wanting me to do that.
You need to come down to London.
Yes, always.
Please do.
Just for them to even think, okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea, and allowing me to even, I was delivering a session for about 50 people, and this was just in the marketing team. So, and then, doing things for optometrists as well. I think they're getting there. I think they realize the importance of it, but I just think they can just do so much more. I think again there are smaller teams when I speak to people where managers are still very much KPIs, and I understand that. And when somebody is not having a great day, they're like, oh, they need to do something. But how much support is that bridge narrowing in terms of managers supporting that individual? I still think there's work to be done.
There's work to be done, definitely, but at least the conversation has started and there's sessions in place to help. Do you think that independent opticians might be at a slight disadvantage to help with things like this because of the access to resources they have or don't have?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I do feel like you can have the conversations better. Sometimes in independence, you may have that bit more time to express your needs, your feelings, and that sort of thing. When I've worked in independence before, I've definitely had a bit more time to take my manager out for coffee. If I've got things going on, I can speak to her about it or him about it. So I've definitely had that time. But in terms of general resources, yeah, I think it can be restricted. I think they have, maybe different pressures going on behind the scenes, and how much well-being is at the forefront right now. um, yeah, I think it's still a challenge.
Yeah, I know of a practice, multiple, not Vision Express, where that particular branch had a such a toxic manager, director, where it was so hard for anyone to come into work. OA, Optom, Lab Tech, and it's just that one person who made it difficult for everyone. And it truly it does have an impact and it has a domino effect. And you come into work just waiting to finish the day so you can go home again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it does take a real toll on
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think it needs to be made,
Yeah,
people need to be made aware from right from the top of leadership of companies,
yeah.
just then for it to trickle
Yeah,
down.
yeah, absolutely. I think
Um,
there needs to be processes in place because same thing happened to me about 12 years ago when I was working in a place, and I found my manager was really intimidating, and this was a time when my well-being wasn't at the forefront and I wasn't managing it, and every day I'd dread going to work. Every day would pile up. I know this would be month after work, month, and my anxiety was getting worse. And then one day I just had to say, you're intimidating me. And once I'd had it, said it out loud to her, she took a step back and she's like, oh my God, I didn't actually realize I was being like that. So sometimes it can work having that conversation. Other times, I've went through a pre-reg, and I think pre-regs really can struggle when they have a supervisor that can be intimidating, overpowering, aren't supportive. And during my period, I felt really, really, not happy. I dreamt of just running away and giving up. And
yeah.
now I think there's a lot more people right now actually speaking out about pre-regs and having safeguarding in place and having protocols in place where they're not getting actually abused in different ways.
Like pre-regs have the best, one of the best clinical skills out there because they've learned everything so fresh. But what I mean is, from a confidence perspective, um, they find it hard to stand up to people,
Yeah, because
and they'll think that their career will be over before it even starts should they speak out.
exactly.
So, it's great that people are now taking that into account, and safeguarding for pre-regs isn't something that's crossed my mind before, but now that you've said it, it's so important that we get it done.
So important. Yeah, absolutely. Because they are literally, like you say, they find it, scary and daunting to speak up because they're scared of the consequences, as you say. What will happen if I say something? What if I lose my pre-reg? That's what their fear. And now I think it's been really highlighted that so many people are just struggling now, and safeguarding needs to be in place.
Yeah, definitely. What other problems or concerns do you see coming from optometrists?
I think the main thing is, as I was saying, I think the main thing is looking after themselves, not having time for themselves, especially in the day as well. A lot of multiples, a lot of busy practices. I remember one person we were doing a CPD with, and they were saying, it's all very well talking about well-being and having a glass of water. She goes, because I don't drink enough water, and that's one of the things she wanted to work on. She goes, but I don't even have time to go to the toilet. And I was thinking, gosh, you're that busy that you're just
Yeah.
doing one after the other, and you don't even have 10 minutes, 5 minutes just to take that break, basically. So I think people are finding the days really busy. I think they're finding it quite overwhelming. They're running behind. They don't always often get a lunch break. So I think that time restraint, that busyness, and not having that time in the day. So especially if you're working full time, after 5 days of doing that, it can feel really difficult. So what are you able to do? Are you able to speak to your manager? Are you able to put some things in place? Are you able to ensure you are getting your allocated lunch break? What can we do to support you in having that conversation and not thinking, oh, it must just be me. I must be the only one running behind. Other people seem to be okay. Again, because no one's communicating. So I think it's so important that you communicate as much as possible with your manager. And sometimes, that relationship with your manager can be difficult. And I've had that before as well, where I couldn't communicate with manager initially, but I thought, over time, what's going to happen? I either have to leave or I give it my best shot. And, I took my manager out for coffee. I laid down everything I was feeling. And you've got to have a bit of a thick skin because you are going to get things back as well. Have a bit of feedback on yourself too. So your manager might say to you, actually, we feel that you could improve here or there as well. So I think having that two-way conversation is really important, but be prepared to also take a bit of feedback back as well, because we may moan about our day and moan about our colleagues and things that may go on, but actually let's take some constructive feedback as well. We used to have something called a 360 feedback form in Tesco's, and we'd go around asking our colleagues and peers and managers, what is it that we're good at, what is it that we're great at, and what is it that we can improve on. And it was difficult seeing what people thought we could improve on, but actually over time you put a seed in our minds and thinking, oh, actually I can maybe improve here, maybe I can communicate better here, maybe I can take my time more here. So I think communication is so vital if you're not getting on in your store, because you're spending so much time there. It's important that you're happy there.
Yeah. And I think sometimes if the optometrist is not feeling well or feeling a bit down for whatever reason, not feeling in the mood that day, their behavior can then impact others within the store, because unknowingly, unconsciously, they might be very blunt or very short with an OA, for example, and that could then make it a bad atmosphere within the whole store, even especially if it's a small one. So I
Yeah,
think it's very important to be conscious of the way we act, even when we're not in our best moods as well.
absolutely.
Um, and I think that's where your 360 feedback would be amazing, because we might get feedback saying, actually, sometimes you're not that nice. And we got to be able to take that feedback on board, just like you said. But
Yeah.
that's the only way we'll actually ever improve. As long as we're not doing it consciously and we're willing to take that on board and improve, then it's all part of the journey at the end of the day.
About making those positive and productive changes, and you've got to work as a team to do that. So taking that feedback is so important, and just knowing that we may have a certain role in our practice, but we can't function without the other people there, whether it's your OAs or a DO, a CLO, a manager, whoever's there, other optoms. You're not the only one there, so you can't really do your job unless the other people are happy and they're productive and they're feeling positive as well. So work together as best as possible. There's been times when I've known that my OAs are feeling a bit down. I can just tell the mood's a bit off. And I will literally pull them in my room for 5 minutes, say, what's going on? I can tell your mood's a bit low. Just talk to me, what's happened. They just have 5 minutes, have a bit of a release, and they just talk about whatever may have gone on at home or whatever it is. But they feel better that somebody in their practice actually cares about them. And then they
Yeah.
continue throughout their day, knowing that they're supported.
I think it's worth even taking that 5 minutes out, even if there's a patient waiting, because it can have a massive positive impact for the rest of the day. Just
Absolutely.
to end with, if there was one thing that you could change in the industry, what would it be? I know you probably have so many problems, so many solutions coming in your mind right now, but what's the most
Exactly.
critical? What's the most important that you find?
Having well-being as a priority in every practice, and whatever that looks like, whether it's a little well-being talk in the morning, whether that's like essential CPD for everybody, whether that's having a coach that comes in once a month, or they have access to that person, whatever it is. But I need the well-being to be really implemented into practice and every practice, so that somebody, when they're not feeling good, that they have someone to go to.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sheena. It's been refreshing having this conversation. Normally, we're just talking about KPIs
Yeah.
or how to improve performance or anything else that we can do. But it's been refreshing to talk about wellness and well-being, which is so important. So
Thank
thank you so much. It's been a privilege.
thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Welcome.